Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Fixate and Binge podcast. Before I jump into anything, and we've got a great episode for you, but before I jump into anything, I thought it would be apropos to highlight something, a very important milestone for a beloved figure in entertainment, and that is the man with the most unfortunate name in Hollywood. Dick Van Dyke is 100 years old today. That is Saturday, December 13th. 100 years old. That's amazing. And he still has all his marbles. You know, he's not like limping over the finish line to 100. I mean, he is in his right mind. He is such a beloved guy. I thought the most unfortunate name in celebrity culture was Dick Butkus. I was wrong. Dick Van Dyke trumps them all. And happy birthday to Dick Van Dyke, the man with the worst Cockney accent ever in an English language film for Mary Poppins, but I've still loved him. He's such a kind soul. I think he's America's grandfather, but at that age, probably great grandfather. So happy birthday to Dick Van Dyke, and to any Dick Van Dyke fan out there. This is a special day to maybe share a social media post about him, hit a like, share. Give the man his flowers. 100 years is impressive. So yeah, that's out of the way. The other thing I want to talk to you about is a couple things that I've been watching on TV. The last episode of Welcome to Derry on HBO Max airs tomorrow, which will be Sunday, the 14th. And dude, hold on to your jockstrap. The entire series has been mind-blowingly amazing, very scary. The TV show, I think, excelled in the thrills and scares more than the movie did. The two movies, rather. So you're not going to want to miss that. And the other thing is, if you have Apple TV and you didn't spend the money at the cinema because times were tough earlier in the year, Formula One or F1 with Brad Pitt, you can stream that now if you have an Apple TV Plus app. That's available to stream now at no additional cost. And last but not least, Wake Up Dead Man, Knives Out, the latest Benoit Blanc crime thriller, mystery thriller, is on Netflix. That launched or dropped last night, so I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I'm going to see it, and I think you will want to see it. It's that good, and I think Daniel Craig is having such a great post James Bond career playing this Benoit Blanc detective movies. What a great second renaissance for him. Anyway, enough with that, because I've got something very exciting today. I've got a producer, writer, director on this podcast from the frozen tundra of Michigan,
Yes,
not far from Detroit. Is that right, Jeff?
that is right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I have Jeff Hupp, who his film, which I believe was filmed last year, but it's been making the festival circuit, and now it's available on Amazon Prime, and it's called Band on the Run. Anyway, welcome to the Fixate and Binge podcast, Jeff.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I love bringing on creatives. I love talking to people with visions and dreams, and anytime it's with the arts, that's right up my alley. Your film, Band on the Run, which my wife and I watched last night,
Oh,
was
thank you.
it was an interesting glimpse into a rock scene in the late '90s that I wasn't really familiar with, the
Yeah.
Detroit rock scene. And I wanted to know, was there a particular moment or memory in your personal upbringing that sparked this idea for this story and this film to be made?
Yeah. So I was one of those musicians in
Okay.
the late 90s, striving to like get noticed. I was in a band called the Atomic Numbers, and we were around when the White Stripes were coming up. So we were all kind of like this musical community, and um, yeah, it was just a moment in time. And we had our last show on December 2001, just a couple months after 9/11. We were invited to New York to play for a label to get a record deal. And we played for RCA, and they passed, and we that was our last show, and we said, so long. And so I kind of wrote Band on the Run as an homage to that scene. And it was kind of a great thing to kind of just get out of my psyche, to be totally honest with you, you know.
It's like exercising a demon from your past, right?
100%, 100%. But yeah, it was a great time, and it seems like just like yesterday. But that's what I was trying to do, is just capture kind of like the moment and what was happening, and bring it to folks as an indie film.
Well, that was, I mean, it felt like it came from somewhere personal. And I mean, I cyberstalk, I say this every podcast. I legally cyberstalk all
Sure.
my guests. And I had seen that you look like you're very active as a musician, that you still play, you still, you still get things out. And even behind you, for my listeners, you won't see this. If you're watching this, there are guitars and music pieces. Oh, wow. A lot of
Got
guitars.
a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Holy cow. Does one of those amps go to 11?
Look across the board, 11, 11, 11. Where can you go? Nowhere.
I love that we get that. And if you don't get that, shame on you. You've missed one of the great movie moments.
Yes.
It goes to 11. It goes one higher, right? So, yeah, yeah. So it's clear that music, and I think I even see a drum kit behind you.
Oh yeah, that's my drum set. Yeah.
So
yeah,
wait, you play everything, right? I mean, guitar.
I play a little everything and nothing that well.
Okay.
So
Well, that's humble. That's humble of you. But you obviously played well enough to be brought to New York to play for a record contract with RCA, and you took your shot. I watched your film, and I'm probably going out of order of the questions I have prepared, but I watched your film and I wrote my review late last night, and your film seemed to be about, you know what? This isn't a film where all the dreams come true for everyone in the film. This is a film about, you know what? Go for it. Take your shot. Go for it. You don't want to wake up like you don't want to wake up like the son. I forget his name. I know he's played by Matthew Perl. Was he Jesse?
Oh, yes, correct. Jesse,
excuse me. Yeah, you don't want to wake up like Jesse's father, and we can get into the casting in just a minute.
Sure.
And look back and say, there were opportunities missed. I never went for it. I never tried. I never shot my shot.
Correct. Yeah.
And if nothing else, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. That message came through really clear for me.
Great.
There was a moment also in a film that I know you love, and I'm assuming you love it because it's very adjacent to your film. And I'm rambling here, but in the film Little Miss Sunshine, the dad, played by Alan Arkin, tells his son, "I'm proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to be ashamed of. You went for it." And those are like the last words they exchange before something happens to the dad character, but the grandpa character. But that resonated with me. And I don't know if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think a couple of those moments in the film obviously came back to me in retrospect, looking back on my musical experience and with the band. And I realized that there were times when I was doing it that I was so hyper focused on getting a record deal and getting out of Detroit, whatever that was going to mean for me.
Right.
That I kind of overlooked the fact that I was doing something that not a lot of people had the chance to do. And I was, and maybe even that I missed out on enjoying a little bit because I was so hyper focused on getting a record deal. And looking back at it as an older guy now, back in my late 20s, being in my 50s, looking back in my late 20s and thinking like, when I was writing the screenplay, I was both Jesse, the protagonist, and the father. And kind of, I was having a conversation with my younger self. Yeah. So this was, I just wanted to put it out there. Like, so many people live their lives. They don't really spend a lot of time thinking about their place in the world and like what they're doing and how lucky they are to do it. And looking back at it as an older guy now, I was like, man, that was some really fun, exciting moments there. And I really wish I would have taken more time to enjoy it. So that's what I was trying to convey there. Yeah.
Well, you definitely got that with Larry's role as the father. He's like, this is the best time. I mean, you guys, are you kidding me? I mean, get out there and enjoy the good life.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be that he was speaking from experience. You're going to look back at this at some point, and this is self-referential to you. You're going to look back on this, and you're going to think, that why did I not recognize that moment, that snapshot in time was the best time, and I squandered it, or I blew it, or I didn't accept it for what it was in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. You're 100% right. Like, yeah, just to put a little more finer point on it, like the whole idea isn't to get the record deal, right? It's to like enjoy being a musician and enjoy being in a van with dudes playing rock music and like and being young and enjoying, there's that, kind of sappy kind of idea of like enjoy it while it's happening, like it might not happen again, but it's accurate.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think a lot of us, this is something I have to catch myself doing too. Sometimes I'll get into my dreams aren't coming true. The things I really want to have happen for me, it's not coming together the way I wanted it to. And then I'll not stop and look around and recognize, but what about all these other great things that are happening for me right now? Why am I hyper focused on my specific dreams, not lining up, and things aren't falling into place exactly the way I prescripted them to be? Whereas I'm missing all of these wonderful moments that are happening right now. And I think I think that's the essence of regret, looking back and realizing I could have enjoyed those salad days. I could have enjoyed those glory years. And instead I was so neurotic and insecure, or so antsy and stressed, I didn't stop and, well, for lack of a better phrase, I didn't stop and smell the roses.
Correct. Yeah. 100%. And that's like looking back on it now, what I was really trying to convey with Band on the Run is to, maybe even also offer a little advice to those younger musicians who are doing their thing, and or any artist, or anybody really, right? Take some time and enjoy yourself, enjoy the ride. That's really where the juice is. And so, yeah, so I set off during COVID to write the script, and then a year later I was lucky enough to make it. So
that's
it all came
incredible.
together.
Yeah, that is incredible. Now, if I read correctly, you write with two writers, so you have kind of two producer, longtime friends, associates, and the three of you collaborated. And forgive me, because the three of you you have a production company, and I forget the name of it. What?
Yeah. The powers that be. Yep.
The powers that be. I'm gonna never forget that. The powers that be, because that's such a great name for a production studio. So you write with these guys. Can you explain your collaborative experience working with these longtime friends of yours?
Yeah, sure. So we're a couple of dudes, three dudes who work together in the Detroit advertising community. A lot of people don't realize, and I don't blame them, that Detroit has a pretty big advertising community and marketing community because of the big three automakers.
Right.
And so a lot of advertising dollars, a lot of high quality content and advertising since the 60s, 50s and 60s, right? And so we were buddies, and I've known him for 20 or 30 years now. And Merritt Fritchie and Brian Cusick are my partners, and they are writers. And I was actually what would be known as an account executive. So I was the square. But we were all good pals. And then fast forward 30 years, like after knowing them for all those years during COVID, we're all getting a little bored. Merritt and I were working together at a company doing their auto advertising. And in the middle of it, I was like, man, I'm bored. I want to start doing something creative. I couldn't play music out. And so I started writing during COVID because I had written a screenplay when I was really young, probably 10 after seeing Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wrote my first screenplay, which turned into a I'm going to say stage play, but that's saying it very loosely, right? A bunch of 10-year-olds in here in suburban Detroit, but we put it on, and it was such a thrill. I'm kind of meandering here, but I'm connecting
No,
dots.
carry on. This is great
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm connecting dots. But then I discovered music, and then writing kind of went by the wayside. And then during COVID, I wrote a screenplay, and I was like, wow, that was really fun. But I'm like, oh, it's got to suck. It has to suck. So I started sending out it in contests. I ended up placing in a few, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'll try to write another one, and that's when I wrote Band on the Run, and then I just ran it by Brian and Merritt, and we kind of picked at it a little bit, and then sometime not long, in not much longer of a time frame, I was like, let's make it, and that's how it all came to be. Yeah, and working with Brian and Merritt, we just kind of became a team. So.
You know what? I appreciate all of that. And no, you were not meandering because you're explaining. No, not at all. Because I've had so many guests, and I know it's because of the fact that this is 2025, and it does take a couple years for the creative process for screenwriting and getting funding and getting your film off the ground, especially with whether it's an indie film budget, especially with the indie film market, it takes a couple of years to get these projects off the ground. So I accept the fact that a podcast in 2025, interviewing directors, writers, screenwriters, is going to refer to the fact that the first inklings of this movie idea happened during COVID. I'm locked in my house, and so I'm forced to write, which I think is probably the best scenario for anyone that's forced to write is lock yourself away.
100%. Yeah.
So I wonder, some film historian is going to have to go back and look at those COVID years and go, some of the finest films from the indie film market to the major drama, major films, they were born out of the fact that we were socially removed from each other. We were all in lockdown, and the human brain can do something wonderful when it's under distress, or it's when it's under some kind of strain, or it's doesn't have a lot of distractions. There's a wonderful thing that can happen creatively. And so you are not the first person on this podcast to say,
interesting.
I was bored during COVID and I felt like I needed to do something, and this is what happened.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a great call out and great insight. I think that's absolutely 100% true, and I'm sure, like, you're right. Like, the psychological effects of COVID are yet to be understood, and what kind of creative sprung from those years. But all I can tell you is I wrote 4 screenplays.
Four different ones, or 4 variations of Band on the Run?
4 different ones in those 3
wow.
years. Yeah. I mean, that's how much time I had. I mean, I had an interesting situation only because my kids had just graduated from high school. They're a year and a half apart. And so I was an empty nester with my wife living in this house, and for the first time in like 18 years. Right. And I really was just searching for a way to keep active and busy and creative. And that's what came out. Some people, to your point, like, I saw it happen. Like, all the musicians were making music, writing music, doing albums. I mean, I think Taylor Swift did 2 in like a year there during the COVID years, but like, there was a lot of creative output during those years, and that's exactly what happened, right? We were just all going crazy, and I had to do something, right? So
the metaphor that comes to mind, or the image that comes to mind, is a flower growing out of a crack in a sidewalk. It's like, we have to express, or we'll all go mad. I think we'll all go crazy.
For sure.
That's so good. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Band on the Run because one of the
Sure.
things I really liked about the film, Jeff, is that it blends emotional family dynamics, especially with the father and son storyline, which I greatly enjoyed. I'm watching the film and I was expecting, oh, this is going to kind of probably run a similar way that maybe The Commitments, one of my great favorite
Great
films
film.
about
Yep.
from 1991, or Almost Famous. But it ended up, well, I don't want to spoil it because I want our listeners to see this film. But it ended up taking some surprising turns, and it ended up being something heartwarming. And really, I like the father and son relationship in this film, and I just wanted to, you know, how, there's a question in here somewhere, Jeff. How do you want people who watch this film to come away feeling? I mean, what's the
hmm
overarching message you want for them to take away from your film?
Yeah. So it's a really good point. I guess I'll answer it and say that like it's a reflection of what happened to me, which is if I'll just say like in my musical uh I'm going to say the word journey. In my musical journey, um, I didn't attain the gold ring. You know, I
Mm,
didn't. That's not where. And for 99% of musicians, that is the truth, right? Like,
right.
if that's what they're shooting for, most of us do not get what they see as the final outcome. And I didn't want to sugarcoat that in this film. And I read the reviews of the film, and some are like it's a little uneven because there's some different kind of like um emotional arcs where it goes from slapstick to serious.
Hmm.
But my response to that is not that I need to comment on all of my reviews, is that that's life, right? Like there's the film is realistic as it relates to most people's journey when it comes to music and what they're chasing and family life. I mean, and I didn't want to sugarcoat that, and I didn't want it to turn around at the end. And again, don't want to spoil it, but like, people don't get what they want in life, and that's the reality of it. And I didn't want to sugarcoat that.
Well,
um yeah.
well, I really appreciate that because I had some comments on a recent podcast, and I don't like to wax too philosophical, or maybe I do. I don't know. That's why I
Mhm.
have a podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But I was thinking about so the story with me, really briefly, is I had dreams of being an academic. I had dreams of being an academic. I was a big Shakespearean nerd. I put myself through college, acting, with acting scholarships. I had an agent. I also thought I wanted to be an actor. But in the end, I decided to focus on academics because I was really good at literature.
Mhm.
Just don't ask me to do calculus. Forget it.
Likewise,
Yeah,
likewise.
likewise.
Yeah.
So I followed my dream all the way to England for grad school.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And
Yeah.
I got into a PhD program at a university in England. And the big moment, I spent 3 years writing a doctoral thesis. I had a master's degree already, and then I wrote a doctoral thesis, and then I had to defend it. And one of the people I had to defend it to was a professor at Oxford University.
Wow.
And let's just put it this way, I didn't successfully defend my doctoral thesis, so I was
Mhm.
awarded a lesser degree. So my dream of being a professor, or a full, a full
Mhm.
professor and having a terminal degree in my field, it didn't come true.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time thinking about what might have been.
Mhm.
And when I watched Little Miss Sunshine, and I was reminded of this watching Band on the Run. When I watched Little Miss Sunshine, and the moment I talked about earlier is where the dad says to his son, the grandpa says to his son, um, lots of people don't even try. And I'm
That's
paraphrasing.
right.
Lots of people
Yep.
don't even try. They don't even go for it. You
Right.
went for it. And if nothing else, that was really healing for me. And I was
Mhm.
reminded of that moment during the father and son moment in the van,
Yep.
of this is the best time of your life. You should go for it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the relationship that that your actors had in that
Yep.
father and son dynamic. And I know I'm rambling here, but it really
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
resonated with me. I really enjoyed that. And one last thing, and I've said this before, not all your we are not here on earth whether you have a spiritual belief about, I don't believe we're here to have all of our dreams come true. We're here to enjoy the journey. And if
Mm-hmm.
there's one thing I took away from Band on the Run, it was enjoy the ride. Just enjoy
Yeah,
the
love that.
ride.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I appreciate that. That just calling that moment out specifically in the van at night. So giving away a little movie magic here.
Yeah, yeah.
We were in a studio filming that,
Mm.
and it was a little later during the day. I mean, it was at night, and we had the cast and crew there, and I wrote. I had written the scene as it was up until Larry picks up the guitar and sings one of his own songs. And Larry came to me when he first came on and said, "Hey, I'm totally down. I can't wait to be in this movie, but I'd really like to showcase some of my music." And I was like, "Oh, okay, Larry, let me see what we can do here." And I kind of zeroed in on that scene. I thought that would be the scene to have it. And then Larry sent me a bunch of songs that he had written, and that song is called uh, Breakdown, Breakthrough. And it just seemed totally apropos for the movie and the scene. And so Larry did that live, and he did that with a electric guitar not plugged in.
Wow.
And so anyways, we'd shoot the scene late at night, the crew's tired. Um, and we did that scene just twice, but that second take is the scene that's in the film. And then when I yelled cut, everybody started clapping, and it was just such a great moment for me, and for the it was just like it really hit home. It was like we knew that there was something special in that scene. um
Well,
so
yeah, I was
yeah.
gonna say, sorry to jump in there. That is my favorite scene in the film.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
That is my favorite scene in the film, and his son Jesse watching him, and
Yep.
and just the shot of his reaction watching his dad, his poor broken dad,
Mhm.
broken in more
Yep.
ways than one, folks, and we're going to get into that too. Something
Sure.
happened a month before this film was about to happen. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, and watching his poor broken dad, maybe a shell of his former self. Um, and it feels like he's looking at himself in the future a little bit,
Yes.
you
Yeah, a
know.
little bit. Yeah.
And that was a moving moment. I really enjoyed that
Yeah.
moment.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks. Those guys really nailed that scene. I was just so pleased that it worked out that way. And like you know, when you make movies, like this is my first movie, so like I don't have any other experience
sure.
other than just being a musician. But like, and you know, when music hits you, right? Um, that was what I had dreamed of for that scene, and had in my head for it to happen, and it happened, and I was like, oh man, that's if nothing else, I have that scene. um you know, and it just all came together. Yeah, so
Well,
I'm
it was
thankful for that.
yeah, it was brilliant, and I mean, I was reading up a little bit about Larry's background,
Yep.
and first of all, I was like, oh wow, I've seen a ton of movies with Larry in them.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
totally.
like, wait a minute, Walk the Line,
Oh
Hocus
yeah.
Pocus, so many movies with him in it. And I'm like, wow, he's kind of a heavyweight in your film. For a first time
Yeah.
filmmaker to get somebody like Larry, who's an accomplished musician, like you said, he's an accomplished
Yeah.
musician.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
was that experience like? I mean, how did you connect, if you don't mind revealing it? How did you
Oh, not at all.
come across Larry for this?
It's a wild story, so stay with me, but I'll try to make
Okay.
it as short and succinct as possible. So, I was casting the film. I had it cast. We were 2 months away from shooting, and Larry was going to be his role as the dad was going to be played by my very good friend Chris Plum, who's a Detroit musician, and he has his own pedigree. And Chris has played with tons of people, went on tour with the White Stripes as an opening act just as they were making it big. And he's been in tons of stuff. And so Chris is ready for it. And then I get this call from my bandmate, guy named Nick Punty, who is a Detroit. He's a little older than me. I've been in the band with him for like 5 years, and he owns a restaurant in what we call Downriver, Michigan, which is down the river from it's on the Detroit River that leads into Lake Erie and into Ohio and blah blah blah. Anyways, Larry called me and he's like, Jeff, man, I got the weirdest call yesterday. A guy called me and asked me to play at my restaurant. And I said, hey, I don't really have a lot of bands play, but I'll keep your name and number. And then he's like, and I asked this guy what he does. He said he's an actor. And I was like, what's your name? His name is Larry Bagby. And he was in Walk the Line. I was like, what? I was like, well, first of all, Walk the Line is one of my favorite movies. I'm obsessed with Walk the Line. And I'm like, second of all, I know exactly who he is and the character that he plays. He has a very subtle character, but he gets a lot of screen time in that movie. But like I said, his performance is very subtle, very quiet. He's like a gentle, I'm not gonna say a gentle giant, but he's a gentle supporting bassist for Johnny Cash. And I'm like, Nick, you got to give me his number. And so I got his name, number, and his email, and I sent him an email out of the blue. I said, Larry, a big fan, love Hocus Pocus, love Walk the Line. Would you at all be available to be in my movie? And I attached the script, and 2 days later responded, absolutely, I'm in. I love the script. Can't wait. And I was like, whoa. So it was wild. Here I am. It's my first movie. By the way, I have enough money only to shoot it in 8 days. And and Larry agreed to be in the movie. And I was just, I was like, I don't even know what this means, but I'm going for it. And then Larry came aboard, and as you kind of alluded to, he broke his foot a month before the shoot. And any other shoot, this would have been dead in the water. But in my play, in my movie, he's in a wheelchair, which is wild.
Yes.
And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait a minute. But first of all, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear you broke your foot. But second of all, you can still be in the movie, right? He's like, well, yeah, I'm in a wheelchair in the movie. I'm like, oh. So the first time I met Larry, I picked him up from the hospital.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
No. Larry fell in love with a girl from Windsor, Ontario, which is right across the river from Detroit. And so he was in town, and he ended up getting his foot operated on by a hospital, from a doctor in a hospital, like the roughest hospital in Detroit. Because he didn't know Detroit. He didn't know to come to the suburbs. But what he also didn't know, and little side fact is, this hospital, Detroit Receiving Hospital, is a hospital that practicing doctors go to for trauma because of the number of gunshot wounds. It's like one of the top hospitals in the country for that kind of trauma. And so he got operated on in one of the best hospitals in Detroit, in the region. And so anyways, he sends me a note. He's like, hey, pick me up at this time. And we had never met. And poor guy, he was in a wheelchair and just in pain, really in pain. I felt so, first time meeting Larry, I picked him up and I took him to his Airbnb. And that's
and you're
history.
Somewhere in a haze of Narcan and everything.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Poor guy.
You could have got him to agree to anything, I think, at that point, right?
For sure. And now I consider him a friend, and it's so crazy. He's had such a great career, and he continues to. And I love the dude. He's just one of the best humans on the planet. So yeah.
Well, he did such a great job for you, as I knew.
Oh, thanks.
I'm sure you know, he did such a good job, and it's clear I'm so glad that there was a moment to work in his skills as a musician. And
Yes, yes.
another reason why that scene, and we talked about it earlier, but another reason why that scene meant a lot to me is when I was younger, I discovered that my dad, now my parents met during Vietnam. They were both in the Navy together, and I was born at a naval hospital in '73. So I'm also in my 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how old you are, but you look good, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah, thanks. 56. So thanks.
56.
Yeah.
You look a lot younger than me. I'll tell you that.
But I feel young.
Do
But
you?
as we all do.
Well, you're looking good. You're looking
Yeah,
good.
thanks, man. Back at you.
It's the mileage on my end is the odometer's about to roll back. So, but
Yeah, I get it.
my parents met during the Vietnam War, and my dad completed his service in the Navy and everything else, and so I didn't really have any memories being a military brat. But later in life, I would find out that my dad had. I remember asking him, Dad, if you could have been anything in your life, what would it have been? And I think our kids will. Maybe most kids, I think, have asked their parents that question, and I was surprised by the answer I got because I didn't know this about my dad. My dad had been offered a scholarship to play trombone at college.
Wow.
And
Wild.
yeah, he was into brass bands and he loved the band Chicago because of the brass.
I grew up with Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, so good. And
Yep.
he was really, really good. And he decided his home life was too tumultuous. So he enrolled rather than be drafted, he enrolled. And so
Good for him.
the band scholarship was put on hold and then he never got back to it because he met a gal from Montana, my mom, and the rest is history. But he had said, if I had had my way, I would have taken that scholarship. I would have graduated and I would have got into a band and we would have played horns. And I'm like, were you ever in a band? He's like, I was. And I go, what was the band called? What did you guys call yourselves? The Verbs. And I'm in my head, I'm like, that is the worst name for a band I've ever heard.
I know. That's so great.
The
I mean,
Verbs.
it's at the very least, it's very academic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that nothing about the band had anything to do with English
The
grammar.
Verbs.
The Verbs, yeah. But
Oh,
so as I'm watching your film and I'm watching Larry pick up the electric guitar in the van and start strumming, and I'm watching his son, watch his dad, and almost like he's getting a glimpse of this is what it looks like if you don't take your shot. You'll live with this regret. And whereas for those that dare to dream and just go for it, that at least you can look back and say, you know what, I went for it.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's kind of where I was hoping to go and what people would get out of that. And I'm like you probably, and I tend to live my life doing that, trying to do that stuff.
Right.
And I've said in a couple interviews, partly the movie was inspired by my mother who had MS, and her sister, my aunt, had MS, and I grew up kind of watching loved ones not being able to walk and not being able to live their lives and had no freedom. And I think that just, I don't think it's a stretch to say subconsciously, I just saw that, I took it in and was like, I'm healthy and I can do these things, and it would be a crime if I didn't, because so many people can't. And I mean, the idea of Band on the Run came to me when my mom was not doing well about the time that I was in the band and going to South by Southwest. And I wondered for a moment as I began writing Band on the Run, what would have happened if I would have taken her on the trip in the van to South by Southwest? And that was really, because it would have been wild, right?
Yeah.
And that was the inspiration. I was like, well, maybe in this movie, in this narrative, it's my dad. And he's also a musician, but yet he's struggling. And what would have that would have been like? And that's really how it all came about, right? And like just like bringing two pieces of my life together and like trying to tell a story and with some kind of message. Like you need to do, to your point, you need to take your shot. and you need, don't wait, because you never know when you won't be able to. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but man, Larry he just nailed it. I was so thrilled for him to do that scene. And then he was such also a commanding presence on set. He was just such a pro. I mean, James Manigauld was, giving him direction, right? And here, this knucklehead from suburbs of Detroit, not knowing, I studied film in college, but like, I never directed a film before. I've directed bands before. But he was so gracious and so kind, and all the young guys were just in awe, and like they took his serious professional demeanor on themselves and just made this little local production so kind of like he just really just pushed it up and bumped it up a notch. And in 8 days, which is incredible. Now then people tell me, they ask me like, how did you do it in 8 days? And I always answer like, I was dumb enough to think I could do it.
Hey, hang on a second. When you said 8 days earlier, that was before Larry had kind of signed on to the project. And I thought once Larry was on board, you got a lot more than 8 days. You still stuck to that 8-day schedule?
Yeah. We shot in 8 days. Yes.
We shot
a feature film in 8 days. Yeah. It's wild. Yeah.
I have never heard that. Not indie or otherwise. I have never heard that. That's incredible.
Yeah, we had 8 principal days of photography, and then we did 2 pickup days of just like B-roll. And it was so tight that now I look back on it and realize like if anybody didn't know their lines, or we would have had a problem with rain, or we would have had delays, or we would have had lighting issues, or what, like there's no way this film could have gotten done. But we came into the most fortuitous weather in Michigan here in June. The actors were well prepared. I had, thankfully, another crazy story, I had been laid off for the first time in my life from my advertising job a month before the shoot. So I spent that entire month doing all the production duties, like making sure the locations were locked, taking the grip team there to make sure that they knew what they were going to do prior, doing a table read with the actors via Zoom. Like another kind of happy accident. I honestly, if I wouldn't have lost my job, it would have not happened.
Wow.
It was just like all these, like add in Larry breaking his foot, and I mean, all this crazy stuff, and it's wild. But anyways, 8 days and we got it done.
Well, for a first-time filmmaker, Jeff, it doesn't look like an 8-day effort. It looks like at least a 30-day to 45-day shoot.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it was crazy that we got it done. But yes, thank you for saying that.
Well, the guest I had on last week, when you were talking about, hey, I've got Larry on my film, and he's been directed by James Manigauld, and it's like, you're a first-time filmmaker, and you're like, how is he supposed to listen to me? He's taking directions from one of the best directors working today.
Oh yeah.
My guest I had on last week, he was also a first-time filmmaker, and he made a film called So Torn. He's in the Swiss Alps, and he had an actress in his film, and I remember asking him about it. I'm like, hey, that actress, I've seen her in other films. He's like, oh yeah, she was in Schindler's List and Peter Pan. And
wow.
And throughout their shoot, she would say, well, when I was working with Steven, Steve, when I was working with Steve, I'm like, Steve who? Steven Spielberg. I've been on 2 films with him, and he was just kind of like, how is she supposed to listen to me?
Right. I mean, Larry was so gracious, and he was so like, there was a point where like, I pulled this, I'm like, you would tell me if I'm screwing this up, right? He's like, all good. all good. And man, he was so nice to me and still is. And I'm so thankful that he was able to be part of it. It obviously lifted the quality of the film.
Yeah.
And, I always, it's obvious, but like, if you have good actors in an indie film, it can rescue any of your other lower quality items in the film, right? From sets to scenery, etc. But like, yeah, it was so, and the young kids,
Oh yeah.
they just, man, they just killed it too. I think they were fantastic in the film, all their first feature films. So yeah, my wife and I would lay in bed after a 12-hour day. We'd just go, we'd conk in bed and we'd look at the ceiling and we'd start laughing about the events of the day. Like, can you believe we're doing this? Like, and it's going well. Like, it was crazy. So yeah.
That's folks, if you're listening to this, this is amazing to just hear. You had a vision, you had a dream, you made it happen, you did the dog work, you did the unglamorous behind the scenes work, you did all the prep, you lined everything up in a row, and then you just did it. And that's fearless, Jeff. There's a fearlessness, especially when you're like, what's there to be afraid of? I've never failed doing this before. This is my first go.
Right. Yeah. And I just have to give a shout out to also like my cinematographer, a guy named Brandon Lee Keller. He's a very talented young cinematographer here in the Detroit metro area. But he was the first to join the team. And then I worked with him because he's been doing shorts for a while. I was like, all right, who do I need to hire to make this happen in 8 days? And he gave me a roster of the grip companies and the assistant director, who was just fantastic. I mean, the whole team. So yeah, it's yes, obviously I took a chance, but I also had like the best cast and crew like I could possibly have hired. Yeah, they were great.
That's amazing. I have said before that it seems like film is the most artistically collaborative medium we have in the arts because of how many people have to come together. And it really does come down to, and I'm going to big you up a little bit here, Jeff, it comes down to the singular vision of being able to say, we're going to follow this guy, and we're going to make his dream come true, and we're going to work on it, his vision for this project. And there isn't any of this pretentiousness like, what does he know? He's never done this before. He's a lightweight, or he's a greenhorn. And it's like, no. We're here to do work. We want to do our best too, because when we do good, he does good, and we all, the rising tide raises all the ships, as it were. And I think that isn't stated enough. That as good as especially for first-time filmmakers, when the project is so well executed, as was Band on the Run, that it really is a collaborative effort from you're backed by good people, and that's impressive to me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they were the best. I'm also a weirdo where I just can't stop myself from getting my hands dirty. And like, I remember when I was working in advertising and we go on shoots, and I was an account executive there as a higher level guy to like make sure stuff went right. But I would always find myself helping the crew pack up. And it's because I grew up as a blue collar kid in Metro Detroit, playing in bands, humping equipment at every gig and packing up my drums or my bass amp and like helping other bands. And like, I cannot stand watching them do that kind of stuff without being involved. I can't. And it's a problem, but it made me realize that like, there is this weird separation. Like, you're kind of like, I would get pulled aside and say, Jeff, you on shoots when I was in advertising, pulled aside and said, Jeff, you can't do that. Like, there has to be a separation of like hierarchy. And I just didn't feel comfortable with that at all. Like, and I had to work on it. But I guess my point is like, you got to get your hands dirty. And like I say today, just professionally, I don't expect anything. I don't expect anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do. And I felt the same way on the set. I was this is not me saying whatever, but like if I was in between shoots and I noticed that there wasn't any water in the cooler, yeah, I was going to get the water out and I was going to get the ice and put it in the cooler. Like we don't, this is a small indie film. We don't have the luxury of like, get one of the PAs to fill the, I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah, I asked for no soy latte. What is this?
Yeah. What is this?
Yeah,
How
what is
dare
this?
you? Starbucks with no cold foam on top.
That's it. I'm not going to drink this swill. Toss it in their face. Go get me my order. Yeah,
please.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I've been on a couple film sets. I do have an IMDb page. Don't look at it; it's pathetic.
Oh, I'm going to.
I've been on a couple film sets, and I remember I was on one film set in Hawaii. I was living in Hawaii, so don't think they flew me out to Hawaii. I was living there. It was a convenient shoot, and I went there, and I remember I was on set for like a week, and we had like 200 extras for this film, and I remember the feeling of, no, there's a separate catering company for the extras, and they're over there in that tent.
Yeah.
And we're over here eating king crab, prime rib. They're over there eating chili and cornbread and stew and a slice of toast or, some crudité. They're eating, they're eating apples and chips. We're over here eating, fine. And I remember they noticed that, and that was not good for the morale. That was not good.
It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like, even on my little microfilm, like there was a point where I felt like, I'll just be honest. I felt like there was like this divide between the cast and crew. And I know from what I've heard, that's typical on Hollywood. And I am not comfortable with that at all. I don't like it. And maybe that's just my problem and it's not solvable. I can't solve that problem, but like, I just didn't feel comfortable with that. And I'll be honest with you, I felt like it went both ways.
Right.
The cast kind of like doing their thing and the crew like, well, we can't bother the cast. I'm like, no, man, this is like we're one team. And like, everybody needs to be involved. I mean, to the extent that they feel comfortable.
Sure.
But like, I just feel like it's a group effort, and maybe that's from me being in bands my whole life, and it's always about the whole team, right? And,
So. It's not like you were touring with roadies that would pick up all the equipment for you,
Yeah.
If you're playing Stonehenge, you'll be the guy that pauses the guitar solo to lower the triptychs.
The 6-inch.
And you might even be dancing around it too.
You might have to try to open the pod.
Yeah, that's right. I love that film. I love it's one of the greats. It is. If the band in the film Hot Freaks were going on a real actual road trip, what songs must be on their playlist?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so first off, I named the band Hot Freaks because of a song called Hot Freaks from one of my favorite bands called Guided by Voices. That's a poster over there of Guided by Voices.
I love Guided by Voices.
Yeah, they're one of my faves.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just so you know, it's a Midwestern staple here in Detroit because they're from Ohio. So yes, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so Guided by Voices, and they need to play the song Hot Freaks by Guided by Voices. That has to be on the playlist. They also have to have a Cheap Trick song, and if I'm going to choose one, I'm going to say Surrender, even though that's one of their most popular songs. So Surrender needs to be on that. They're going to need to have, they're going to have a Beatles song, at least a couple Beatles songs. Which ones? I would say Taxman and Nowhere Man. That's one of my favorite Lennon compositions. So we got the Beatles, we got that. They're going to have to have an ELO track. And which ELO track? I would say Mr. Blue Sky, which is a fantastic one. And what else? Oh, they're going to have a song from my band, Nick Punty and the Complicated Men. I'm going to have to say...
That's perfect.
I'm going to have to say a song called Rejection Letter from Nick Nick Punty and the Complicated Men. And then we're going to need a song by Ryan Allen, who provided all the soundtrack for the film. So they're all his original tracks. He had serendipitously he had an album called The Last Rock Band, and he's a Detroit guy. And then we sat down at a coffee shop, and I looked at him, and I'm like, I need your whole album to be the soundtrack to the movie, because that's really what this film was a little about. These last rock bands in Detroit in the late 90s. So Ryan Allen's, I'll play the whole album. And then Brendan Benson, he's a Detroit guy. We need one of his songs. I'm going to say we need Life in the D, which is a song he wrote about living in Detroit after he came home from LA, recording his debut album. Brendan is in the band called the Raconteurs with Jack White from the White Stripes. And Brendan is, he plays the guitarist. It's Jack and Brendan.
Sure.
And Brendan's a Detroit kid who went to the local high school, and he's a friend of mine. And I asked him if I could license Life in the D for the film, and he graciously agreed, and at a very reasonable price. So that's the soundtrack for the Hot Freaks.
That's awesome. That is really, really good. I thank you for that. Folks, I want to tell you again, Band on the Run, you can catch it right now on Amazon Prime. It's a great film. It's kind of a coming of age film. It's a road film. It's very, very good. If you've listened to the full podcast, you've heard me reference some adjacent films that it's similar to, and there's a lot more going on. And for a first-time filmmaker, Jeff, I'm so impressed. This didn't look like a first filmmaker effort. It didn't.
Thank you. Yeah,
and the top of my head is still kind of blown off that this was done in 8 flipping days.
It's wild.
That's totally insane.
It is stupid.
It's not stupid. We
did it though, right?
You did it. Yeah. The thing is, it doesn't look like it was an 8-day effort. It doesn't.
Yeah, thanks.
It doesn't. Thanks. There is no point in the film where I'm like, that looks kind of like they threw that together. This is like the Temu version of an indie film.
Totally. It totally is. Yeah.
Where there's
I'm stealing that.
That's right. But there's a boom mic in some of the scenes and some weird editing stitches. No, it doesn't look like that at all. It looks fantastic. Thanks. You did great. I have to ask, you said you wrote 4 screenplays during COVID.
Yep.
What is next for you and the powers that be? Is that right? Yeah. The powers that be,
powers
right?
That be. Yep. Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah. We have a film that Merritt wrote called Metal Island. That's next up. And the brief synopsis is death metal kid from Norway. His dad gets transferred to Mackinac Island, this island in Upper Michigan where there are no cars, and it's a fish out of water story. He has to live his life on this tourist vacation summer. So, Metal Island.
Metal Island. I love it already. And the Norwegians, Scandinavians, when it comes to heavy metal, man, it's another thing. It's nuts.
Their thing, man. Yeah. So this kid's really in it. They call it black metal, actually.
Black metal,
but that's even that. I say death metal because most people are like, "What's black metal?"
Right.
When you hear it, you know it. But it's a thing.
Every time there's a Eurovision competition, are you familiar with Eurovision?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Inevitably, either they're from Finland or Sweden or Denmark or Norway, one of those Scandinavian countries, they've got a death metal band trying to win the best song of the Eurovision. And it's they're good. They're really good.
Yeah. I mean, for listeners who need maybe a close kind of comparison, there's a very famous band called Ghost.
Oh, okay.
And they wear the corpse paint, the black and white paint, kind of like this. But And that's our main character in Metal Island, has the corpse paint and the whole bit. Yep.
Wow. Well, I definitely want to see it. It already sounds interesting. I think that's so funny. That's literally a fish out of water. Norwegian death metal guy stuck on an island.
Stuck on an island with tourists and fudge. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, Jeff, it's been so good to meet you, to talk about your filmmaking process, your creative journey. I have really enjoyed Band on the Run. I'm excited to
Thank you.
see what you do next. Larry was great. The rest of your cast was
Thanks.
fantastic. To the powers that be, you guys have something special. Stick with it. Keep
Thank you.
going. And if there's any way that I can support in my small sphere of influence what you guys are doing, I would love to have you come back and really get into it for your next film.
Yeah, appreciate that, Joe. Thank you for having me. Yep.
Excellent. Well, to all my listeners out there, I always try and close with something said about mental health, and it's just me riffing. I will just say, look after yourselves. Be in tune with yourself and be gentle in the criticisms you give yourself. Nobody will critique you more than you yourself. So be kind and be understanding and patient. We need a little bit more of that. And without further musings or further opining, I will end this podcast and wish you guys all the best Merry Christmas that you have. And Jeff, again, from Detroit, Michigan, thank you so much for joining this podcast.
Thank you for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it.
All right. Again, Band on the Run, you can catch it right now on Amazon Prime. You guys have a great one. I'll see you next week, and a Merry Christmas.